Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we have got an awesome live stream today in my channel, and we have got the Aviyel team here. So, do you know anything about Aviyel? Okay, we already know Joshua has been here in my channel already, and here's Jose. He's the founder of Aviyel. He has made something really cool, and I will just hand over to the team to explain what it is. I don't want to mess up with the content. So there you go. Over to your team, folks. Go on.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Praveen. It's great being here. And we have Joshua and Utkarsh. The guys actually driving our, what our stuff that actually out there for Aviyel. So fantastic being here. So So I think our mission is very simple. We think open source still, both the maintainers and contributors, there's still a lot of things which is suboptimal, and Aviyel want to help that thing, right? It starts with the community at the heart of it. So we think open source is one of the first passion economy. People before even people start calling it passion economy, open source was there, like it's like 20 years old, but nobody was calling it passion economy, right? But we think that it's been around for a long time. People don't recognize it, but at the heart of it, open source is actually one of the first, distributed, passion economy out there, right? So we think when projects actually sort of scale, they sort of miss out the great things of open source, the community and stuff like that. And that's where Aviyel want to sort of help in. We think we can accelerate, we can actually activate a lot of the contributors who are sort of missing out when the project scale. And we have a very powerful statement. Right now, a lot of times people contribute open source because they're passionate, they're altruistic, want to build a profile. But we think we can also sort of figure out a way to get them paid for the time they invested on the projects, which I think is super powerful, and that's what we are trying to build. Right now, it's day zero for us. So if you go to Aviyel right now, you're gonna see 5 projects which we work very closely with, and we've been working with their community, reaching out them. So if you are part of Hopscotch, Chatbot, TypeSense, Doxy, and more stuff, reach out to us. If we haven't already, we think we can actually make your life 10x better, and that's what we are trying to build. So yeah, I think that's pretty much capture what we are. I think Utkarsh and Joshua can actually sort of give you guys insight of what's happening on ground zero.
But I have a huge question in my mind.
Sure.
So I'm originally from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and
Yep.
Aviyel means all the kalavai, and it's one of the awesome food. Is there any relation between the food Aviyel and this name?
See, definitely, it's sort of a throwback to where we are. So the core team is actually all from South India. But the another interesting reason we picked Aviyel was the fact that modern software is actually more like Aviyel, right? You find, so if you guys don't know Aviyel, it's a vegetable soup with, I think, coconut as the base of it, right? So you have almost 8 to, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's eight types of vegetables plus coconut, right? So we think actually modern software is more like that. You'll have different APIs, SDK, and the code that actually binds or the coconut curry actually has been sorted is actually the developer's code, right? So we thought actually sort of both sort of works out, and the profile, the domain was out there. We thought, hey, it's a good name, right? So why don't just go for it?
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's how we end up with Aviyel.
Exactly. I guess that, and okay, go on, folks. Explain about the whole thing.
No, Utkarsh wanted to say something. I think he was just.
Yeah, it's been if I give my introduction, I'm a developer evangelist at Aviyel, and it's been almost a month. It will be almost a month since I've joined. Once I knew about what Aviyel was doing, it really fascinated me, right? And to tell you more about what the stuff that we're doing at ground zero as of now, there's a lot of excitement around the team, and there's a lot of building connections at the core of it, right? Because if you look at a lot of other companies, there's always a set of roadmap that is always given for an organization that has to be followed. We sort of have that, but then at the same time, we are also defining things that nobody has ever done before, right? Especially doing something at a very large scale, and not just for one project. We have 5 projects for now, and we'll be doing similar stuff for a lot of projects out there in the coming years. So yeah, there's a lot of experimentation and a lot of groundwork that has to be done. And yeah, there's always community around open source projects, and I think it is always one of the hardest parts for the critical maintainers who are hardcore developers to do the community side of things. And I think Aviyel is actually doing the hard work and lifting the heavyweight basically on that side of things. So yeah, basically we are doing a lot of exciting stuff at Aviyel right now. And yeah, hopefully in the coming months we'll be evangelizing a lot, and we'll be more active on the community front end, especially connecting with a lot of people, and there will be a lot of brand awareness involved. Yeah, but then other than that, yeah, it's pretty much exciting stuff because nobody has ever done that, right? So that is one of the most exciting parts for me. Yeah, Joshua.
Yeah, thanks Utkarsh, and thanks Josh, and first of all thanks to Praveen for hosting us. I'm really excited, that this is the ground zero. We are just starting, and we got this place, this platform, and thanks for joining everyone. We can see a lot of people joining, and let's ask us any questions, right? Any kind of questions we are free to answer that one. So yeah, coming to the point where you got the picture of what Aviyel is doing, right? And where we know that content creation and community plays a huge role in leveraging any project or anything when it comes to any other sector. So it can be in the entertainment, gaming. We have like a lot of other sectors where the content creation plays a major role, whether that can be a useful thing or a non-useful thing. But when it comes to open source, there has been some loopholes where Aviyel is trying to fill right now, where the maintainers who put a lot of their efforts in building projects, they could not leverage their projects after a certain extent. So projects start decaying after some time, or maintainers start another project instead of doing that. So this is potential, but the thing is the community is not backing open source properly. And coming to the Hacktoberfest, it's been great. Hacktoberfest was really great for some people who don't even know open source. It has given a space to contribute, do their first commits, getting its facts, and encouraging the power of open source. But we still think that open source is not just limited to the first commits and swags. So there is something beyond, something powerful which can be achieved through the power of open source. You can see like there are a lot of projects we have right now, TypeSense, Chatwood. They're really powerful, but only few people know about these projects. So that's the reason why we are here, and we are trying to solve the problem. What everyone can join hands with us, and you can sign up. Link is in the description. You can sign up on Aviyel, and you can just see what we are doing. And we are happy to hear your comments and your suggestions as well.
We have already got a couple of comments from PK Prashant Kaloke. So how to organize the event in Hacktoberfest?
Before jumping into Q&A, I want to sort of go slightly more deeper into what Joshua mentioned. See, I think the community bit about open source. So when we spend a time with talking to maintainers as well as contributors, what happened? Especially, I mean, there are two angles there. One, like Joshua clearly mentioned, there's a crazy amount of great product actually, the maintenance sort of burned out, and partially because there is no source support, right? And the second part, if you look at a lot of the open source product actually who able to raise money, they also sort of change the community. So when I speak to a lot of maintainers, what I hear, see, when we get funding, we either actually build a team in house, and we don't actually look at we don't look at a contributor who is outside of our organization for a core contribution, right? So fundamentally, what open source sort of changes from that point. So we think at Aviyel, we can actually help them. We can still plug in that contributors, playing the part they used to play, maybe in a different role altogether, but we want to make sure that's not disturbed. So that's actually one of the things, one of the interesting angle we think we can help projects, and that's what we're doing right now. Sorry, Praveen, please.
Yeah, I was just telling there are loads and loads of enthusiasm in the comment section as well. So we have got already 2 or 3 questions from the comments. So anyone would like to pick it up, any of you. So the first thing is like there is this question from PK Prashant Kaloke: how to organize event in Hacktoberfest. So whenever we will be covering Hacktoberfest today, so we will be going through that, and how to start open source as a beginner without knowing anything. I can answer these two questions, but I would like your team to answer that, so that you are the special people today. So go ahead.
No, I think Praveen, I think you should actually do the primer, and we'll jump in with our first.
Okay, in my opinion, I would say like for example, for organizing Hacktoberfest events, so you have the complete guidance, and MLH, Major League Hacking, is one of the huge company that does a lot of hackathons. Even right now, there is one hackathon going on around the world. Hackathon is going on, so they have got an absolutely awesome guide to organize any type of hackathons. And when you try to start organizing some kind of an event or something like that for Hacktoberfest or anything, if you go to hacktoberfest.digitalocean.com, there is an option for event managers to create an event, and then that gets published and other things. I hope that was answering your question, Prashant. And anyone else who would like to add a point can add, because obviously three of you have been doing a lot of things in the open source world, and I believe you have better answers as well.
So we're going to be slightly selfish here, and we're going to talk about our 5 projects that's been onboarded. So
exactly. Tell about that. I mean, this is definitely not selfish, because everyone is like trying to find at least one project to contribute. People are like putting the castor oil in their eyes and searching for projects, because most of the projects that they can see are the projects that can be seen by others. And if I'm trying to create a issue or create a pull request on one particular project, that will be seen by a lot of other people, and there will be like loads and loads of pull requests coming into that particular repository. So mine, I don't think no one will be able to like approve it. So go on. So, be selfish.
So the projects we onboard, especially TypeSense, Chatbot, Doxy, we are actually working very closely with the maintainers. I think Joshua can actually fill in more details on that. We are working very closely with the maintainers. We are even planning to do a office hours. If you actually especially around the first PR. So definitely we are working closely with the maintainers as well as the community and the first contributors to start. Just to sort of expand that, we even planning to build course around open source projects. So you'll see extension of that. So it's more like a bug bounty. So if you do something around, let's say we're building course around React. So you'll have documentation related stuff, and that's going to be like something around Doxy, right? So we are sort of plugging in the first contribution for the for the people starting out to be part of the ecosystem. And see, the best thing about working with maintainers, and this is actually a rare opportunity when I especially when I talk to experts or contributors. See, maintainers are like this 1 million. I mean, I'm not sure when I put a number there, it might have sound slightly derogatory, but see, if you know rockstars in real world and software world, that's maintainers, right? So if you can interface and if they can review the code, that's the best thing you can have, right? So whenever actually you can just if there is a maintainer out there who can actually who is doing office hours or doing something with first contribution, just jump in and talk to him. The perspective is going to change forever. Joshua, but I think we should talk about bunch of things we have around first contribution, right?
Yeah, definitely. So the problem is the maintainers, they find it too difficult sometimes. They have a lot of side hustles. Like apart from open source, they also have a full-time role. Sometimes they do freelancing. That everything sums up the open source is free. Open source is on their own interest. Like no one has forced them to make this project. But the thing is, in the end of the day, we need some money to leverage the things, right? So it can be resources for the project, it can be the hosting charges, or it can be any other like the cloud bill, like anything, right? So lot of private companies also use some open source projects and open source tools in their projects, and they earn a lot of money through that open source tool. So why don't we support this open source tools? So that's the question mark. So how Aviyel, the thought process of Aviyel was this one. So coming to the projects we have TypeSense, which is really amazing. It's thousands of stars. But the thing is, like, there is no proper content around that. Like, no one is talking about type sense. So it's an like alternative for Algolia and Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch is really complex. No beginner can actually contribute in that one, right? So it's same like same comes with the other projects as well. Like Chatbot is an alternative for Zendesk or any live chat support systems. So if when it comes to this one, right, we are trying to see the value of open source, make it more transparent. That's the entire idea. So people know that there is open source, but they don't know what project is useful for what, right? So Chatbot is useful for any kind of live chat support system. There is a simple console, you can manage the things. TypeSense, it can load millions of data in just microseconds. That's the speed of TypeSense. So it can be easily integrated in any kind of product. But the thing is, no one knows about this one. That's why Aviyel is here, trying to make it more transparent, more robust, you can say. And from the maintainers perspective, it is very easy when there is all together managed together through the help of Aviyel. And as maintainers find it so difficult, right? There is so much less time for them. Most of them, I think we talked with a lot of maintainers. They say that when we get time in weekends, we go into the issues and see that. So the only time they find is the weekends. So we are here even in the weekends because we are free during this time. So that should not be the case, right?
I don't understand. Do we have any kind of things called weekends or holidays?
No.
Definitely not. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's how we are trying to help these projects to grow, create events. We have also an events platform where if you have any open source projects, you can connect with us, create events, and make it more visible to the public, to the community.
Actually, that is gonna be the right thing for Prashant then. So Prashant wants to create a event, and maybe he can collaborate with your team.
Please. Yeah. So the way we and then again, like when we actually talking about the mission, like a lot of things are sort of abstract, but what we are trying to do, on day zero, we have onboarded projects. We are working very closely with the contributor. The first thing we are trying to fix is content. When I say content, it can be as simple as documentation, which is very powerful, and like tutorials, and even like single async events, right, around projects. So all the projects we onboarded, we're starting with TypeSense. We'll have the first community call happening next week. We'll also follow up with Chatbot, Docs. All the projects actually on. So fundamentally, we want to make sure there is this recurring calls for the community to see, like, hey, what's happening, right? And we think the community, both the contributors, not just contributors, right? That's one of the interesting aspect of open source. People, when someone says contributor, they always assume is just a coder. But there are other people actually does content. There are people actually evangelize, people who actually even provide support, right? Help users. Right? So there's a ton of like ecosystem around. So Aviyel, one of the things actually we when we picked up this challenge, we want to bring all these folks under one umbrella and sort of drive it and empower them. So events platform, which is just got launched almost a month back. We have, I think we have less than like almost 40 events already happen on the platform. A lot of live coding happening. So we look at a project and like, if the community member want to sort of showcase something he built, that's something we are really happy to actually onboard. So in fact, actually, I think two of TypeSense members and like two of Chatbot members going to be part of the community call when happens. So we want to make sure like community members get being showcased and being like upskill to actually make sure the product sort of grow with them.
Awesome. Yeah,
that's excellent. And we have other questions as well. Quickly going through the other question, which is by Mithun. How to start an open source as a beginner without knowing anything? Basically, yes, that's a bit of a tough situation or a tricky situation. So open source is something like, how should I say? You are supporting another person in their software development journey or something like that. Other person could be, or other company or something like that. So in that case, you must know at least what exactly they are doing. So definitely there will be a lot of ideas you might have, like you might know the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or the backend languages, PHP, Python, Node, Java, etc., something like that. So once you know something, you would be knowing something, right? So you can try finding out the projects that are in line with your skill set, and then try to understand what exactly the project is about. And maybe after that you will be able to go ahead and start working with the project or something like that. So I guess that would be the right way to go. Or the team, what do you want to say?
Yeah, like yeah, Jose.
No, please, Utkarsh, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Praveen said. Like, first, I guess to dive into open source, you have to find your niche in the first place, especially when it comes to language, right? Because when I think of open source, I think about it's someone else's attempt in trying to solve a problem, and which is already persistent. And open source is about how you can pitch in and you can do your part to help them solve the problem. And I guess, yeah, so first of all, to get started with open source, I think you should find your niche in which language you're most comfortable in. And because almost every open source, if they are very technical, they revolve around certain languages, and they have fixed number of languages that they'll be using. Even if it is HTML, React, Angular, whatever it is, whatever frameworks they are based on JavaScript too. I guess you should definitely pitch in and find the language that you're most comfortable in. And yeah, I guess one of the best ways to start with open source projects is attending events, hackathons, making your first PRs. They are I guess one of the easiest ways to get your first PRs in. And I guess yeah, definitely people get their confidence once they actually have their first PR. It doesn't matter what level the PR is, I guess. Yeah. So basically finding a niche in one of the languages that are available. Definitely that would be the pathway to get into open source.
Yeah, I mean, just to add what Utkarsh said, right? I think most of the maintainers I have interacted, they always try to actually, the stuff that, it's mostly scratching their own itch, right? They have a problem. I mean, they're like, you know what? I don't like what's out there. Like, let me try to, give a spin on that. That's how most of the projects start. And what I just want to add, that question. So don't start a project to be successful. Just start a project to just, because it's fun. And like when I like to build something which is like sort of, extension of me. Start from that part, and always evangelize, right? Always go and talk to people. Hey, I'm building this thing. Like, what do you guys think about it? I think feedback is, why open is actually so powerful because of the feedback. So this is actually a funny statement. Like when I actually VC, when we talk to VC, they're like, hey, why does people, what's the whole premise of this application that's open source, right? So it's a very, very funny statement, when a VC has it. So for me, it's very simple. Like it's just like, Stripe is like, 10x more easy to use for a developer compared to, like, let's say whatever before that, right? It's same thing with open source, right? It's built by developers, and they get constant feedback. That is why it actually going to have a much better integration when you actually. So fundamentally, it comes down to experience, right? When you have a great integration, that means the user experience sort of goes off the roof, right? So that's the thing, right? Just don't start something because you want to start something. Just I would rather actually look at multiple really good projects which need contributors. I think that's a great way. I think, trust me, there are tons of great projects that actually need a contributor. I think we should start from there. Then you might even see this project might not be going the right direction. I can fork it. That's a great way of doing it. Or okay, one of the things I should do, I can do a better job. There we go, right? So that's the way I look at it, and that's mostly what I heard about when especially when I talk to contributors. They always start with something they learn. This is not great. I can do a better job. That's a story.
Yeah, I would like to add again, like so many people think that there is some tutorial where you can just follow the steps and contribute. No, it's not going to happen. So it's not the way, right? This is not something like we learned in the education system, right? So this is something which has a bigger vision, and you are trying to put in your efforts to make that even more bigger. So that's how you should think, your thought process. Like, see, learning, we have to do all the time. It's not that you learn something in 10 days and in the 11th day you will start open source and 12th day you will become famous on GitHub. It's not going to happen. So learning is continuous. And I see a lot of people from the student community. So I'm talking from this perspective, because in the end of the day, we want this to make bigger through the help of Aviyel. So learning is something continuous. And we also are thinking to start something where you can learn all about open source in under one hood, which is open source university or something. So that is another part. But yeah, as I think Utkarsh and Josh answered that, and it's more about where you find yourself skilled at and understanding the project. You can read the content also on the project, right? You can go through the documentation, read some blogs. We have a lot of blogs on Aviyel. If you want to learn about TypeSense, if you learn about MobSF, what is mobile security, or how exactly MobSF is helpful, what is the dynamic analysis and the static analysis, you can understand through reading. And at the same time, while you're reading, go through the code and understand the chunk of code. And if you feel that this can be better, add an issue, talk to the maintainer, and that's it, how you start, right?
Yeah,
Anything, Praveen?
Yeah, pretty much you have summed it up. And almost that's the questions that are being asked from the student side of things. And the other question people are asking is like, I'm a beginner in the open source program. Can you tell me how can I contribute? And that exactly answers whatever you have said, answers your question, I believe. So Vic, and we have, this is interesting question. Even I'm unsure about it. What is mailing list in open source?
What is what?
What is
a mailing list in open source?
Mailing list.
I guess it needs some more context in that question.
Yeah. So mailing list doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Eddie is here. Hi, Eddie.
Hey, Eddie. So Mithun, would you like to put some more context on what exactly you mean by mailing list? Because mailing list it could be any kind of a generic thing. So you have like a lot of newsletters, even in Git and GitHub, when you are trying to work with a project, you have got like, how would you say? So you can follow the projects, all the activities that is going on in a particular project, and that will come to your email as a mailing list. Even that can be called as a mailing list. There will be a small email, a dedicated email which gets created for every project, and that would be a random email, and that random email will be the mailing list. And if you send an email to that, whoever is following to that project, they will be getting the updates as well. So that is what I thought about mailing list.
The mailing list, like it's also an open source initiative. Like using mailing lists as virtual committees or something. That is what I read. Like it has a very huge context. Yeah. And also, like, I wanted to add something. Like, Jose, we can tell them about the PRs and the university bit. Yeah, absolutely, right. Yeah. So one of the things that Aviyel also focuses on is also what you can term as like there is user experience, there is developer experience. We can basically call it as maintainer experience or contributor experience too, in the very big perspective. So we are also coming up, like Joshua also mentioned, right now it is not very easy to get onboarded on projects which have already gone to a very much extent. They won't having those beginner level PRs, right? So how do we get a contributor who has that potential to align his current skills that he has to get him to contribute to that project? How do we make that path very short and very simple? So I guess we are coming up with an initiative known as Aviyel University, where it will be courses that are very centric to projects, and we'll be helping developers who want to contribute to the project get to that level, right? And also about the bug bounty program. Basically, the very close relevance you can have it to is something like JSOC, where you actually achieve something by and you get to solve a problem that is actually making difference in the real world, right? So yeah, and we also have something which is known as PR Sprint coming out. It will be developer centric for getting started with the projects we have onboarded right now, and we'll be clearing the PRs that are open right now, right? So that will be a direct gateway for the contributors that are interested in, and the people who are watching this video and are interested in the open source projects that we have onboarded. You'll be actually getting opportunity to directly contribute to this project. And yeah, so definitely, I think that should sum up what we are trying to do with the coming up, the events that are coming up in the next few months. Yeah, we'll be starting with PR Sprint, and then we'll be coming up with Aviyel University, which is actually going to solve a lot of problems that open source contributors are facing right now. Yeah. So that was a little sneak peek. More details will be coming out soon. Yeah.
And I would really like you to. Oh, sorry. Go on.
So, no, go ahead.
No, this is a funny question from my side. So, it's not a marathon; it's a sprint. Nice one, Vanshika. So, what is the difference between marathon and sprint? I guess a lot of people will be having the same question.
Okay, in context of open source.
In context of whatever we just spoke about, the PR sprint, it is not a PR marathon; it's a PR sprint. So, what does that mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like PR sprint, I guess we named it a sprint because it will happen in a very short duration of time. But then that doesn't mean we are just closing it off, right? PR sprint is something that will be open all year. It is something that will stay on the platform. We name it a sprint because I think it will be more developer centric too. And we'll be making it very fast for the people to get onboarded and get done with the job, right? Rather than making their contributors' life harder with all the documentation and everything, we'll be having content that makes them understand the project very faster and makes them deliver those PRs very fast. So the sprint comes from that way. And obviously, open source is a marathon. It has always been a marathon. You cannot, because I think most of the open source projects, they always focus on solving a bigger problem that is out there and solving a problem that is already being solved in a better way, if that makes sense. Yeah. So definitely it's a marathon in that way, and it is a sprint in the way I defined it right now. Yeah.
And whatever Sats says is perfect. Sorry, just go on.
Last bit of what. At the heart of what we're building at Aviyel University, it's sort of a path for someone to actually start, right? So I think that's one of the things actually we keep hearing, especially when we talk to Devrel. When it comes to projects, it's very hard, in terms of, from a contributor or from a developer perspective, hey, where do I start? And what is my, what's my next step, right? So we work very closely with the media, sort of, figure out that path. So, if you look at most of the, cohort-based, training programs, you see, hey, you're starting as an expert, you're starting as a beginner. These are actually things you actually, learn to reach intermediate and expert, right? But when it comes to open it's completely not there, right? Of course, open source actually, that's not their, the cup of tea. So that's one of the things actually we gone on as open source, Aviyel University. When we onboard a product, we'll make sure this is the path, and we'll actually also make sure there's content or we'll start definitely with, a sync. It's going to be mostly tutors and content, and over the course of time, we're going to bring cohorts where you can actually interact with maintainers, maybe a weekly or monthly based open office hours where actually you can, hey, I did this thing. What do you think, right? Which we think is actually very powerful in terms of, bringing people just as a beginner. And if you're hungry enough, you can reach all the way to be a contributor and maintainer at the highest level. Sorry about that. Praveen, go ahead.
No. That's a perfect addition to what I was trying to say. And there are a couple of questions. Actually, I would like Joshua or anyone from the team to answer Sovik's question. So about the front end and back end web development thing.
So you have a bunch of skills from the front end and back end. So you can you can go to our projects because we want to showcase our projects first of all. But you can go to the projects and you can read the content which is based on front end. So I think we will be releasing a new update in our platform where you can find all the blocks of a particular project on one single page. Josh, right? We'll be having that soon.
Yeah. So see, that is a shameless plug. Just sign up. We gonna reach out to you. If you sign up as a someone, if say I want to be contributor, we reach out to you. We're gonna align you in terms of how the how the onboarding happens and how we actually help you to actually reach out to like contributors or like that. So we're still figuring out to make it like more like a product. Right, it's actually very manual. So just sign up. We'll reach out and like help you actually onboard and like be part of them. But then again, just to like what Joshua said, go to the projects we have. Chatbot, it back in is Ruby. Toxi is actually a documentation on React, Gatsby. Types is actually very heavy on backend, but it's C. Mob is actually also tricky. But then again, there is no Hopscotch, fantastic project.
Hopscotch,
Actually, just
yeah. JavaScript, TypeScript.
Exactly,
Hopscotch,
right? So, but then again, I don't think actually we are limiting ourselves. So there is a project actually we are talking to something called Tooljet. It's actually made of it's built out Node.js. So if you're front end and back end full stack, I think that's a great on JS. That's a great place to start as well. So idea is actually if you're stuck, we are here to actually help you. So just drop in. We'll run you through that. So I think someone mentioned what is Aviyel, right? So just sort of refresh. What Aviyel? So open source is great, especially. I'll give you different perspective of open source, right? And that's how actually we're building the whole platform as well. So open source is actually great if you're a user. You start building, but once you get stuck, if you're not able to find right sort of documentation, you're sort of stuck, right? Then the jazziness of open source sort of goes off course in terms of user experience. But we think the community and along with the maintainer can actually sort of help you on that bit. And that is actually where we are trying to offer. That's offering for the users. We are figuring out the community members to actually help you like in terms of installation when you get stuck, whatever, right? So, and of course it's a paid thing, but rather than actually you figuring out the entire thing by yourself, you're gonna get experts from the project helping out, in terms of your open source journey, in terms of beyond code, right? That's the user perspective. But if you're a contributor and a maintainer, most of them, and this is actually the angle of this maintainer, right? When you're a maintainer, especially when the project takes off, it's good and bad. The good thing is actually, hey, I have tons of users and I have tons of questions, but you don't have the bandwidth for everything, right? And that's where we think the community can chip in. A lot of the projects actually there's a community around that. But what happened with the maintainer when it just takes off, he doesn't have the time to invest in community, right? And that's where Aviyel is coming to play. We are helping the maintainer to actually make sure there is sort of like really good engagement in the community. This can be like things like upskilling. This can be things like community goals. This can be like things like PR sprints. We are still figuring out multiple ways, but we make sure the community is still plugged in and they have part to play. And ultimately, we also make sure like the users actually take their service around the project. So I think I'm assuming that I sort of covered the angle from all the three different parties to open source.
Yeah. So basically, it's like a delta between like developer communities, creator communities, and open source communities where maintainers and contributors come in. So we are connecting all these three dots with the help of Aviyel. So, content creation, again, I mentioned, we cannot ignore that part because evangelizing about product plays a huge role. When it comes to big projects, like you can say React is open source, why it is so famous, like others are not. So there is some backing provided by big companies. That's how it got famous. That's how people started creating quality PRs. So we are looking at that quality should happen with the other projects as well. That's how the PR sprint also started with the initiative of quality first PRs, not the first commit or something like that. It's more about quality first PRs, and we have like goal or something like 1 million PRs by 2024. That's the goal of 1 million quality first PRs by 2024. So we are in the ground zero, as we mentioned, right? And yeah, that's it. Anything, Utkarsh, you want to add on to this?
Yeah, like Joe started with what is Aviyel. There's a lot of ways we can actually define it, right?
Yeah.
Because and our answers actually change from person to person when we try to define it. But then I guess we're just filling the gaps, right? We're just filling the gaps between what the open source projects are currently facing and how can we upscale it, right? Because there are a lot of open source projects, they just be open source projects, right? And they are not able to reach to the level that they were supposed to. When people find out about it years later, they are like, oh, this existed. That we are trying to solve those problems. And I guess, yeah, we are just here to help other people who are trying to help. Yeah, so that would be the best way to put it. But then, yeah, there's a lot of loopholes that we fill that are currently not being done by a lot of people. So, yeah, definitely. So, yeah, make sure you check out Aviyel. We have a manifesto written by our founders. It actually sums up the things pretty well. I'll be dropping the link in the description, in the chat. Sorry. Yeah.
There was a chat message with the link to the early access that has been pinned right now. So whoever wants to go ahead and find it out, go for it.
Yeah, and also shout out to Hamad. He just said he started JS. Fantastic, man. It's great to actually be an engineer right now, especially in open source.
Yeah. And Eddie is here. Hi, Eddie, from whole team Aviyel. Eddie is a GitHub star, and I think he's the most famous person in the open source space.
He's the open source god, and please don't talk anything related to
god of open source. Yeah.
He might go away.
We will do something great with Eddie as well very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have lot of people here like putting in the chats. Thanks for that. And you can ask us any questions, like which you can just go and explore Aviyel, and you can shoot out any other question which is relating the project, or you didn't understand what really is Aviyel or how it is exactly benefiting. Like, we are not taking money from anything. Okay, it's not something like a paid platform or something, but we are giving back to the community. And we are making the process of giving back more reachable. Like you can say this is like a monetization, but we are not taking any money from the people who are actually contributing open source. But you will be getting back for what you have done in terms of the monetary basis, right? So that's the entire idea of Aviyel.
Closed minds, right? Like nobody's doing this, and people hear it and they are like, how can this be? Yeah.
I mean, it's too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Right?
I want to kick myself, like, why is no one else doing it, right? But then again, you can see parallels of this thing, right? So if you look at Red Hat was doing this thing for like last 20 years, but they hired people on the payroll. Sometimes they even hire like open source maintainers. So I think when we reached out to a lot of the maintainers, we found out like there is a good number of people that's been employed by Red Hat to actually make sure the product sort of so I think one class has somebody is actually I missed the gentleman's name, SQL Alchemy. That gentleman actually used to work with Red Hat, right? Because they want to make sure SQL Alchemy survives, right? But we think rather than actually picking like maintenance, we definitely think maintenance is going to be part of it. We think the community can also play a part, because when Red Hat started, and that's like almost like 22 years back, things have changed, and community is actually playing a lot bigger play, and there is tons of knowledge that's been out there. So we're still figuring out how to sort of unpack it, but we think there is definitely a great way of exchanging the knowledge and get paid for that, right? And that this also going to this definitely going to create a flywheel effect, both for the community as well as for the maintainers, because whatever transaction happens, let's say actually someone makes $100 on a gig, 10% or 15% goes back to the core team of the maintenance. So actually they're interested enough to actually keep helping the community grow, right? So that's the kicker here.
Awesome. Yeah. I see. Are there any questions? Just a second.
Arshit has already signed up for early access. Really amazing.
Hamad is joined for early access.
So in quick sense, can I say if this is right? So instead of people who are going, what is about open source? People go ahead, crazily dedicate their time and efforts for solving something or helping you solve something. Now Aviyel is a platform helping all the maintainers and the project contributors by paying something. Will that be the right words to put?
So I don't think actually we are paying them directly. What we are trying to do, we are sort of building the tools for the users to get service from them, right? So right now is actually, if you look at the support system or consulting, it's very, I would say, there is a structure to that, right? I mean, and personally, we spoke to around like 300 plus people, 300 folks from different like maintainers, contributors, as well as users. The fact that unless you have a company that's backed, like VC backed or like funded, it's very tricky to actually get proper support from them, right? And if you look at a lot of the GitHub issues, GitHub sponsors, you will see people are right now offering, so if you look at the different slabs, you see like if you pay me $200, you get like one hour of consulting or like support call from me, right? So people are already doing this thing on a very unstructured way, right? So we are sort of bringing them and like keeping them under a project, so actually both the community as well as product sort of benefit from them. So that's the story.
In simple terms, what did RHEL do, Red Hat Enterprise Linux? So they are basically, even that is open source, but the way their business model is like just giving it for consultancy, just giving their time to help people and big businesses out there. And every single thing they do is for free, but consultation and the helping thing is cost. And boom, they make millions.
So, exactly. So I think the major difference here is the fact that a lot of times actually the consulting sort of done by the maintainers in most of the product, but we think maintainers doesn't want to do consulting. They do just to make sure the person sort of move, or like they want to sort of but we think maintainers actually want to sort of drive the project. They want to like keep like hacking. They want to keep coding, right? But we think there is a ton of people around the world who can actually does that thing, right? So we're sort of balancing that bit out, right? Making sure we create that layer and making sure we standardize SLA, making sure like both the person or the business actually pays for it, and the person actually provides that actually get paid. I mean, like there is both proper SLAs and proper invoicing on that, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. There is a lot to unpack. I completely get that. And I get that all the time. So that's why I said, actually, I don't think 30 minutes or 40 minutes, actually something like, I can talk about this in for days. But and then again, a lot of things actually like very non-linear as well. Like we do multiple things parallelly, and we think ultimately everything on overlap, right? So that's completely okay, right? If you guys still haven't got like the entire picture, that's all right. We are here, like reach out to us on Aviyel. We can give you more detail, like breakdown how we're going to how we're doing this thing.
We have a couple of questions, I guess. No. Okay, cool. Yeah. Any other questions that you might have on the products, please put it on the chat. And hey, Jaskirat is here. Hey, Jaskirat. And we have got the early access pinned on the top of the chat here. And any other questions to the founders and the team of Aviyel? And if you have any other things to add, like feedback or something like that, there is also a link for the feedback too. So over to you, Jose or Joshua.
I'm super pumped. Like you guys actually offering us this platform to talk about it, right? I mean, and especially when it comes to open source, we need like more and more people. So one of the things actually I keep saying, our job is sort of amplify what maintainers be doing, right? So that's what we're doing, right? We sort of taking all the discussion we had with them and like sort of breaking down for the community. So super pumped actually, like you guys are like here talking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, supporting open source is something like supporting ourselves, right? So in case if so a lot of people were actually asking me yesterday this question. You're asking us to work with open source kind of a thing, start a career in open source, etc. So open source is something like you go and work outside to someone else, and how does that going to help me? Lot of ways. First thing is like, yes, I get to meet the whole team of Aviyel, and we are all so close now. And look at the power of the networking in open source. So those kind of things are really, really cool.
Yeah,
definitely. Where can I find you guys? There is multiple forms on the website where you can reach out to us, or just I can just type in my email address here, or Does that actually I can pass on my
all the details will be updated in the description.
awesome.
Already the
Cool.
details are there in the description. So
Awesome. Yeah.
in case if there is anything more to be added, just feel free to let me know, or
No,
let
we're good.
Joshua know.
We have one speaker here who also works at, like, so we have like almost like 3 to 4
Yeah,
people.
Vanshika is also here. Yeah.
So yeah, just ping any one of us. Actually, we are here to talk to you. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, like adding to that, like what Praveen said about networking, right? Networking is actually one of the most strongest parts of open source. It's about going to those conferences, attending those hackathons, and you never know what opportunity lands, who meets who. Yeah, that is one of the most exciting parts, even for me. Like when I used to go to conferences, I've actually met most of my mentors there, right?
Hey,
So yeah,
even the best case happened to me. I met Eddie, the god of open source, in one of these kind of open source networking events, and he's my close brother.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, even I met Praveen, I think, through the one of the hackathons. So that's how we got connected. And even Josh through the
And
Aviyel. Before coming to Aviyel, I was actually connected through the outreach, the content creation program. And then that's how. So that's the power of networking. So you might have some interest in your mind, but you can't really find where you can actually give yourself, put yourself into. So you have to speak about yourself. You have to network with people, talk. Like yesterday, I saw Praveen's event, right? He was talking about being more transparent. Some are so introverts that they don't really expose what they are doing, or they are not transparent of their work. So you have to be like that. That's another way which adds on to what you are doing, right?
another thing which I would like to mention here is, whenever I do a live stream, my own live stream or a guest live stream like this, I used to ask people to be very much vibrant, keep on interactive, make sure you don't get your Josh down or something like that. But not many people will be interactive. So what I generally did for the past couple of months is like I do get a couple of people to help me with the sponsorship and other things. So whenever someone tries to come here to talk to me or something, talk in this place, I will be like, okay, whoever starts the first conversation, you will be getting some kind of a awesome goodie from me. So everyone loves new surprises, gifts, etc. Right? So
Yeah. Makes sense. But the thing here is Joss is always very vibrant. Like if I tell you from my personal experience, I was pretty excited, right? He's like one of the CEOs that I've seen that he has pretty much energy. And our first
I'm not a CEO.
founder. He's not a CEO.
Yeah, I hate the term CEO.
I'm so sorry I brought it up. Hey, we even discussed this backstage. Yeah.
okay, one good thing. So people will be asking for answering the same question which was thrown at me again. So I know Joshua for about like so many days, and he was. I guess you were looking for jobs and other things as well, no, Joshua?
Yeah.
Because of open source, now he is an employee of Aviyel. Boom. And it's one of the most promising startups, I can say.
Yeah, definitely. Like I owe most of the people who are there right now, right? Like even if you look at the tech Twitter and everything, I guess everybody owes their careers to open source. Like a lot of people, especially the ones who are joining right now. Yeah. So I started from a business background, then I transitioned into data science and then developer relations. It was just about networking, meeting the right people, seeing the opportunity and everything. But then, yeah, definitely open source plays a huge role nowadays in the, especially if people are looking for careers in the very long run. Yeah. So, yeah.
I can sort of like fresh up that discussion, right? I mean, why open source is actually. I mean, I don't have to, but I think that's something actually. I'm sort of a. I mean, I don't know actually whether I should do that. Like, I should call myself as a salesman for open source, but I mean, I don't have to. But see, I think the logic is very simple, right? If you look at how the arc of evolution of software, right? See, enterprise was box, right? It's very, like you set up the box, it's hard to implement, right? But then came SaaS because it was much easier for developers, just plug and play, right? Then so I think it's a natural it's a natural evolution, like next everything gonna be like driven by open source because it's community powered, and like I mentioned on the previously, it have a much faster feedback loop other than any other product. So instantly when we had discussion with one of the SVP of Okta before they bought out Auth0, and the funny thing what he said, it's really hard to compete, and it's sort of at times embarrassing, like when you actually lose out a like let's say 500,000 bid to a crappy open source project, right? And it keep happening for them with Auth0. So one thing he said, so when we closed the deal for our for Okta, for our internal Auth, and we're like, what, you guys should actually, you guys already using Okta for the employees. Why do you guys actually look at Okta for your website? And the developer no, we are using Auth. We already have the sandbox running and up and running. We don't want to change it, right? And he's like, I'm being a keep. I mean, it's embarrassing, man. So I mean that's a natural evolution, right? So I think, and that's also one of the things we are working. I think it's more like a long term art for us as well. So I think right now, if you look at the evolution, a lot of companies have started selling to a developer, and the developer is sort of even though he's not writing the check, he's actually the guy actually making the decision, right? And but we think the amount of developers who are actually also trying to sell is still very less. It's partially because developers doesn't want to do a hard sell, right? It's very soft sell for them. So I think that is also something we think we're gonna also empower them to do. And I mean, like a lot of them are actually onboarded. We think ultimately the community that's being onboarded for helping the users might even help them to sell, right? So that's the evolution of what we do. So that's why we said actually the Aviyel University gonna be a prep school for a lot of things for engineers and contributors who actually want have a completely independent, not a freelance sort of thing, because I think freelance sort of such. I try to do freelance. It's not for everyone. So we think Aviyel can do that bit where actually it's sort of freelance, but you don't need to actually worry about where your paycheck gonna come, because it's a more regular recurrently, and you're gonna get all the benefits of a full time. So we think we're gonna combine that bit and offer to the world. That's our long-term mission.
And one thing which I wanted to say is, I don't want to bring up a flame war here, but think about how often your favorite operating system, which starts with W, get released versus Ubuntu gets released. Ubuntu is in the open source community. Every 6 months you get an operating system, new version of operating system. But definitely, in case of the other one, once in 3 years.
3 years. Yeah, bugs.
I'm glad actually you bring up Mac as well into the thing. I mean,
hey, Mac is my Lauda. That's no way. Because even I have got my Mac that has not been updated for a long time. It serves the purpose. It is extremely fast. It doesn't hang like the counterpart. And
but then Mac's actually built out of Unix, and then it's sort of course.
So
it's
almost,
but
it's kind of like a closed open source, proprietary open source. Actually, it's a proprietary thing built on top of open source. We can just give the benefit of doubt. I know I have actually spent out like 3 months of my salary in the UK for buying this one, and even till today, not a single regret. Actually, the battery went gone, and then I had to, replace it for 30,000 rupees, which is a huge money, but still no regrets.
Yeah, no, I think that it's like once you go Mac, it's hard to get out. And that's the whole premise of Apple as well, right? I mean, they're gonna throw more and more goodies for it to actually sort of lock it. But I think that's a different discussion for a different day. But yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. That is super cool. That was really a nice. Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm out of words.
Yeah. No, getting to the topic of open source, it's actually from the investment point of view, right? I think what we are trying to do here, we actually are trying to value the time and efforts that are put by maintainers too. If we get back to topic coming from Max and investing all the time, money and efforts too. Yeah, I guess pitching in that front, we are actually valuing their time, right? Because we are bridging the gap where from we can go from basically viewers to contributors in a very short time. That is actually being, that is, I won't say that it is not being done by a lot of open source projects. It is being done, but then we are trying to make it better, right? Because it's all obviously about making things that are already existing better. I think that is what Aviyel is trying to pitch in for. And definitely we are coming up with a lot of initiatives. And also if we try to event marketing, we have a Twitter spaces coming up today, just 10:30 IST. That's around in 5 hours. Yeah, exactly, almost 5 hours if you want to join in. The link will be shared by Joshua, please. Yeah.
Joshua, the moderator of my community, go on.
Yeah, definitely do join in. It's about building and scaling open source communities. It's a bunch of students who started with open source and now have landed jobs as developer advocates. Some are developer engineers, some are community managers now, and yeah, good stuff. And they've yeah.
I'm super excited.
It's a pretty hot topic, and a lot of people have a lot of views, especially very different views to it, because there is no set roadmap to it, right? Because scaling communities, especially when it comes to open source, it can vary from projects to projects, right? Because what we do for one project might not be the very same for the another project. So that is how Aviyel also stands out. Like,
I mean, this is something we keep talking all the time, right? I think every product is very unique. They have their own nuance, and we are sort of figuring out what's the universal playbook for that, and then what are the niche or sub-vertical playbooks for that. So and that going to be, I think that might be our only intellectual property for short term, but long term you can open source that bit as well, just like Orbit did.
Yeah. So if in 5 hours, if you are free, please do join. This is for the viewers. We'll be discussing about open source scaling and building open source communities. Yeah, definitely. It will be a great discussion. We have great speakers lined up. Yeah.
That was cool. That was awesome. And summarizing, let's have a quick summary of what Aviyel is and what Aviyel can do to you. Anyone would like to take it up?
I've been talking a lot. I think one of you guys should actually go on that part.
Joshua, please summarize.
Please, Joshua, do the needful.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think it's a lot to discuss. I think the founders are really amazing. We have like 5 founders, not only Josh, we have 4 more. Okay. So
okay.
They are still working. They're trying their hard. They're really experienced in this space. So it's not that something we can tell in one day, right? So any tech product, you can write books and books. Still, it is like so much of lagging in that particular thing. So to summarize the thing, as I mentioned, like I like to use this thing very simple: content creator community, open source projects, which are like open source project community where maintainers, contributors, or experts who are well versed with the open source, and also the developer community all together have to involve in this mission. What we are trying to achieve is like a bigger purpose, a bigger picture, right? We cannot define right now like accurately, but we are trying to bring the big picture. So it's not that we can define, right? So it's so difficult for us as well. So it's like a big picture, connecting all the power of community to the open source and plugging into the projects which can leverage the power. So that's how I can sum up with the Aviyel. So I can give a brief, this is a like another example or another aspect, but Netflix also started as a community of creators, right? Community of creators together started something big where the content creation and the power of community were valued, and they are earning a lot. Like creators at Netflix are funded and they're getting all the brand deals. And even like if it comes to TikTok or any other community, they earn a lot. Even though the content is not that much productive or not that much useful, they're earning a lot. So that means that monetization is happening everywhere, in every space. And the creators are getting benefited in the right way as well. So why don't we do the same thing in the open source and developer community? So that's my question. And I think for this, Aviyel should be a greatest answer as of now. I've been in touch with Aviyel for past 3 or 4 months, and I've been learning a lot, exploring, going deep into the problem and trying to like give the solution. We are still in the beta phases. I think we'll make this platform public. Right, Josh? Do we have any tentative date for that, or should we release now?
Just to sort of, what Josh sort of, like mentioned, like I'll sort of summarize that bit. I see. A lot of the open source projects right now, they're like really great projects, but they are not really great products, right? So there's a journey that we, from a project to a product. And there are a lot of unknown persons over there which can be plugged in by community, and that's what we are trying to do with Aviyel, right? So like Josh mentioned, documentation, support, consulting, even we think UI UX design, all those things sort of make a project to a product, right? So that is a journey we are taking along with this maintainers, right, and accelerating that journey. So for a community member, like if you think you guys you want to be part of that journey, join us. We can help you to join any of the projects which can do that journey, right? And in terms of opening up, I think we are still if you've seen, like in 4 months, we started as a forum. Now we have events platform. I think in next 30 days, we'll also open up for anyone to start, creating content for the projects. And I think hopefully by January is actually where we'll ship out our first MVP, the community MVP, where you can actually, do a PR and get paid for it, right? So that's where we are. So I think I would say 3 to 4 months actually the timeline.
Yeah. Like the way I summarize it is basically in the very short term, if you would want it, is you're basically helping open source projects become more sustainable, and at the same time we help them scale, right? Yeah. That would be now scaling. Everybody understands now sustainability. There's a lot of aspects to it, especially when it comes to open source. So then we can dive a lot into that. But then, we are helping open source projects. We're scaling them, and we are helping them become more sustainable. Yep. Yeah. That should be the very short summary. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So, thank you, Josh, for coming here, and Joshua and Utkarsh as well. What did you feel about this one? Like, I'm just a newbie in all these things, and I just wanted to support any open source community or anything that is around these things, so that I'm always believing in karma. It's going to come back to me. So
definitely, yeah. See, I'm not sure about Joshua and Utkarsh. I don't call myself as expert. I'm learning every day. What I think is the fact that actually, the mediums out there, so the way I look at it, I work with a lot of maintainers, and the sort of wisdom they pass on me, I sort of share with them, right? That's my job here. So, in that journey, I learned a thing or two, but I'm still a kid in the, huge ocean. So, but I'm definitely we should, keep doing this thing once in a while. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, this can say that we have got a lead for the next stream as well with Aviyel team.
Definitely.
Then the best thing is, like, Josh, I'm currently putting you with an agreement that when you're launching the project in the public domain, let's launch it here.
Definitely. Done.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, everyone. I believe this was one of the most firing session, and then we have got a lot of cool questions that have been answered, and a lot of newbies are like completely getting good information about the whole open source projects process, etc. And I hope it was really a good session. Kindly leave your feedback, and also Joshua has shared the link to. Hey, Joshua, you are saying about some kind of like a surprise at the end. So is it the same thing, or is there
the same thing? Else? So you can join and you can contribute. Or if you are a content creator, you are good at creating content, writing articles, So you can contact any one of us here. So you can contact anywhere. Like there are a lot of things, a lot of sources available. So you can write some content and earn some like incentives for that as well. So we are trying to make this thing incentivized in all possible ways. So you can be an evangelist, you can be a creator, you can be like a code contributor, or like as I mentioned, Aviyel is a soup for different vegetables. So you can be anything, and you just contact me, and we can. I'll try to give an opportunity for you as well. Yeah.
Joshua is just right there in the chat. Go get his time.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks everyone, and thanks a lot for coming in. That too on a Saturday, that too on a weekend. And only thing before I leave, I'm gonna say is like, stay safe. Make sure you're following all the COVID protocols. And any other last words from all of you before we say bye?
Keep learning, guys. There's tons of stuff to do.
Developers for no weekends. Developers for
no holidays.
No holidays.
We have no
weekends.
times. But yes, that actually gives me another thing to say. Yes, we are like that, but at the same time, your health comes first. So make sure you take care of your health, both mental health and everything. Yeah, it has to. Only when your health is there, next comes anything.
Definitely. So from my side, thanks for having us, Praveen. It was actually pretty interactive. Yeah, and our team itself, the Devil team, is coming up with a lot of live sessions, because for now we were doing all of the connection part at the very back end, right? It was all behind the scenes. We'll be pitching to a lot of speakers, possibly next session with you too, another session about a very hot trending topic too. But definitely do follow our socials, get in touch with us. We'll be trying to help you out in any way possible. Yeah.
Cool. And don't forget, we are here to help.
Yeah.
Open source rocks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
See you all. Bye. Bye.